to Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Wednesdays wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. I want to make sure that the feed is actually working. We just had an issue. I had to restart it. I had to restart Facebook. A little bit of operator error, perhaps. I'm not sure what happened at all, but let me know if everything looks okay as we come out of the gate here roaring for the Wednesday edition of the program. Appreciate all of you. It appears that everything is working well. Thank you for coming and hanging out. A couple of things I want to say off the top here. Thank you for making March crazily the most listened to month in the history of Outkick, the most watched video month in the history of Outkick. Sports has stopped since March 11th, yet we have got the biggest audience we have ever had. I think that's because most people come here for opinion and reasonableness and intelligence, and this time that we are in right now, there is less of that probably than there has ever been. And so this felt like the longest March of all time. I don't know about you guys, but I was like, my God, is March ever going to actually end? The month felt like it extended for a year. I've had entire football seasons that seem like they went by faster than this March. But now we are into April. It's April Fools. I haven't even seen very many people trying to pull an April Fool's joke. Just so you know, I just came back from playing Capture the Flag with my kids. I have played Capture the Flag. I've played a lot of Uno, a lot of basketball, a lot of wiffle ball, a lot of football with the Travis boys here of late. My team won on Capture the Flag. Yours truly found the flag and brought it back. Big time win in the Travis family earlier today. But sincerely, I want to thank all of you for watching the show, for sharing it, for listening to it. It really is a testament to the audience that we have built, that the biggest audience we've ever had comes when there's almost no sports in the slowest sports month of all time. All right, we got a lot to get to. I want to give you a roadmap of where we're headed. We're talking about the coronavirus. I will talk to you about the latest on the coronavirus. HBO had a documentary last night. I don't know how many of you watched it. Christian Dawkins was the subject of that documentary, and Sean Miller and Will Wade's audio with him that was wiretapped by the FBI was shared for the first time. The transcripts have been discussed. I'm curious how many of you actually watched that Christian Dawkins documentary last night as it debuted on HBO. Wimbledon has been canceled. Positive news that came out late last night from CNBC. We will get to this. Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson planning a head-to-head challenge that will involve Peyton Manning and Tom Brady as well. Sign me up. I'm watching. No way in heck that I am going to miss that. Big-time challenge all around. All right, let's start with the coronavirus. Everybody wants to share doom and gloom. Everybody wants to run around like their head is on fire, their hair is on fire, which would be awful for me given how good my hair is. And I continue to dive into the numbers and tell you that we are going to be fine, all right? We know how the story of the coronavirus ends. We are going to defeat it, right? Just a question of how long is that going to take? And there are all these different sorts of models out there. And if you're fascinated by reading about models, I tweeted out a link to 538, which had a really interesting analysis, which basically told you, hey, the reason one guy can predict 2 million deaths and the reason why somebody else can predict substantially less than that is because we don't have enough data to actually input into the model, and it changes every single day. So some of these models are not literally worth anything because they only tell us what we're already seeing on the ground, and we need better input in order to get better output. And as I've said from the get-go, we don't know the death rate of this virus. We don't know how many asymptomatic cases there are. We don't know what the contagion factor is. All of these stories have been across the board. The World Health Organization told us that the coronavirus is less contagious than the flu. Other studies have suggested it's more contagious than the flu. What's the death rate compared to the flu? All of these things we really don't know, which means we have a broken system in general. Somebody just said it, I happened to look over. The one thing that I think is becoming crystal clear is that China completely lied about their data. And that has been briefed recently in the White House. When they said that only 3,000 people died, that is not remotely true. And so that makes the modeling even more difficult, because if you had been using any data from China at all to try to forecast going forward, now that China, it appears, may well have had tens of thousands of deaths in Wuhan and totally lied about it, there need to be substantial consequences for China, because the way that everybody chooses to respond is predicated on the data that they had that was out there. And it appears that China just pulled random numbers out of nowhere and tried to float them as the real world. And because they are a totalitarian country without freedom of speech, without freedom of press, nobody was actually able to get good numbers there. Now, there's still reasons for positivity. Japan and South Korea have pretty public, open, capitalistic democracies, and they still seem to be able to handle it. Canada and Australia have been doing decently. So there are still other countries that have been able to handle this in a decent fashion. A lot of times they have been smaller countries with less landmass to worry about. But this is why I believe there need to be severe consequences for China. Because the way that China responded to this failed the entire world. The virus came out of this area. How exactly it arose, we still don't know exactly. But China's lack of honesty needs to lead to substantial global consequences for the Chinese, who are going to lead to probably around the globe hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are going to die as a result of the way that China responded to this. And they were dishonest with their people, but also they've been dishonest with the world, and they have not allowed the world to respond in a way that we should have been able to and would have been able to if they had been honest and straightforward from the get-go. Now, I'm not an expert in terms of geopolitics, so what exactly we can do to China, I'm not sure, but there needs to be a severe consequential response from the United States and the world as well to China. If that means pulling our production out of China, I'm in favor of it, right? Economic decisions being made by individual American companies and relocating. Obviously, I would rather have more of those jobs in the United States, but if we can put them in other foreign countries and take the ability of China to produce our products, I believe that is a move that many companies should be looking at as a result of Chinese lies, all right? This is a major part of the story, and we still have no clue how many people actually died in China. All right, so that's a big part of the story that is now coming out from a variety of different sources. And that's information, candidly, I wish I had as well, so that we could have had better information and better modeling. And also, I would call upon the United States media to stop citing Chinese numbers as if they are accurate, when it is now clear that the numbers that China put out are blatant lies that are not in any way reflective of what really happened in their country. We've got to stop using them in any kind of way as a signpost that is in any way representative of what took place in China. All right, to me, that is a definite that everybody in the United States media and the global media should be taking. All right, that's a step that everybody should be taking. Now, for some positivity, daily coronavirus positivity. 11 straight days now since March 21st that Italy has had a lower daily infection rate than they had on March 21st. That is 11 straight days. I tweeted out the curve. Italy is on the backside of their curve now. They are working towards the end of their coronavirus outbreak in Italy. That is good news. Spain and Germany, the next two countries with the most coronavirus cases in Europe, have both gone 5 days since their newest, highest daily total infection number. Again, that doesn't mean that they've gone down 5 straight days in a row. It means that 5 straight days they have been lower than the peak that they set. And similarly, it means that 11 straight days Italy has gone down, since Europe has been obviously an incredibly difficult breakout for the coronavirus. The fact that the 3 largest countries in Europe, from purposes of a coronavirus outbreak, have all gone down in the last 5 days in the case of Germany and in the case of Spain, and in the last 11 days for Italy, is a positive sign looking in our direction, because we are working, as Dr. Fauci said yesterday on CNN, we are working towards setting our peak. Now, I don't know exactly what day that peak will be. There are moving factors in the United States. How many tests are there? We're now testing over 100,000 people a day. Yesterday, we set a new daily infection high. The numbers have come back a little bit, it looks like, in New York. What will that number look like when all of it is in later tonight? We don't know. But what is going to happen is what has happened in Europe. We are going to begin to come down. Now, a lot of people are not going to understand or focus on this. What matters in the short term is seeing the total daily infections come down. Okay? That doesn't mean that the raw numbers are not going to continue to go up. It means that instead of adding 20,000-ish cases a day, as we are doing right now, we want to add 19,000. And then we want to add 18,000 and start to decline in terms of the new daily additions. The raw numbers are still going to go up, but we want to decline the growth rate, and that is what the leveling out, the flattening of the curve, the goal is. But again, if you need to look to optimism, look to Europe, where the 3 largest European countries with coronavirus outbreaks have all begun the descent. I'm not sure what day will begin the descent in the United States because of the massive testing. We have now tested over 1.2 million people, I think is the number. And so we've slowed down the growth. And that is important. We are not like doubling every day. All right, we went up some yesterday. We've gone up some the last several days, the last 10 or 11 days in a row, I think. But at some point, that leveling is occurring, and we will start coming down the other side. Doesn't mean that every day we're going to go down once we start going down, but the overall trend lines are going to be positive as you look going forward. There is your daily coronavirus positivity. All right, how about Will Wade? And how about Sean Miller? 2 of the most stone-cold liars that we have ever seen. Did you guys, I'm curious, did you guys watch this documentary last night on HBO, the Christian Dawkins story? The FBI and the Southern District of New York, this was a shameful exercise that they decided to spend 3 years and probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of our dollars, to try to prove something that we already knew, which is top college basketball players get paid to go to college. Like this whole argument of should we pay the players or not, the top college basketball players all get paid. And look, I'm a capitalist. I really don't care. All right? This is something where I've evolved in my thinking over the years. I just don't care at all. Think about it. If you can't enjoy college athletics because a guy drives a nice car or lives in a nicer house or a nicer apartment than he otherwise would, that's on you. If you think that Reggie Bush should get his Heisman Trophy stripped because his family lived in a nicer house than they would be able to afford if Reggie Bush wasn't a great football player, I'm sorry, you are an absolute loser in my mind. I want people who are successful to make money. And so I really don't care about college kids getting paid. But the idea that the FBI needs to conduct a 3-year investigation and that they're trying to get Rick Pitino and all these big coaches, and instead they get 2 lower-level guys, basically a runner in Christian Dawkins and Jim Gatto, who's a longtime Adidas employee that doesn't even make that much money in the grand scheme of things, this is a fundamental flaw. Having said that, Sean Miller and Will Wade are as guilty as anybody has ever been in the history of breaking NCAA rules. They literally played an FBI wiretap of them discussing paying players. Now, I have long argued that the NCAA is the equivalent of a traffic cop. They are sitting on the side of the road, everybody's speeding by, they then run out and grab somebody and pull them over and read them the riot act and make them pay a ticket, and that's basically what the NCAA does. But think about how fast you would drive on the road if there were not very much traffic and there was nobody in front of you and it's a sunny day and there's no issues with speeding, if you knew that a cop would never pull you over. Because that's where I think we are right now in college athletics. Will Wade and Sean Miller and LSU and Arizona both essentially said, yeah, we just don't care. They basically called the NCAA's bluff. It wasn't very long ago that Bruce Pearl got 3 years for lying about a barbecue. Now Will Wade can literally be on an FBI wiretap talking about how much money he's going to pay players, strong-ass offers, and there's no significant penalty at all. The NCAA has become the emperor with no clothes. No one respects the NCAA at all. And if I'm a coach now, I'm looking around saying, why would I worry about NCAA rules at all when Will Wade and Sean Miller are as guilty as you can possibly be on FBI wiretaps, talking about paying players, and they get absolutely no punishment? It's crazy to me, all right? I don't necessarily care at all about it, but this is evidence that the NCAA has zero power remaining, that Will Wade and Sean Miller are going to cheat their asses off and not have any punishment at all that goes forward. This is great. I was worried that it might be an April Fool's Day hoax, but Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson are going to play a golf challenge against each other, according to CNBC, in May, that will also include Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Tom Brady will be with Phil Mickelson. Peyton Manning will be with Tiger Woods. I'm going to watch this. I think it's brilliant. The PGA right now should be leaning into every possible ability and type of content that they can. You can play golf. It's one of the few sports you can play with social distancing involved. I love this idea. I props to Tiger Woods, props to Phil Mickelson, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning. I think this will be fantastic to watch. Word is it's not going to be on pay-per-view, maybe on TNT instead. I love everything about this decision. I can't wait to watch it. It's one of the few good news we've gotten in a while in the world of sports. How about Jadeveon Clowney? We've talked a lot about Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, and Andy Dalton as three quarterbacks who could potentially be alive in terms of being able to be free agent quarterbacks who go out and make a difference. The best skill position player that's still out there is Jadeveon Clowney, and now ESPN is reporting that Clowney has lowered his overall required salary from $20 million a year guaranteed that he wants to $17 to $18 million. Now, Clowney can be a big difference maker, even though he only had 3.5 sacks last year. He had 2 touchdowns. He missed 3 games due to injury. He played the second half of the season with an injury. He can be a monster difference maker at a defensive end position, at a rushing the quarterback position. According to ESPN, the 2 teams that are most interested in him right now are the Seattle Seahawks, where they traded for him and he played last year, and the Tennessee Titans. Now, $17 or $18 million, probably too much for the Titans to afford to pay for one player. But if they could get him down to $15 million a year, they've already added Vic Beasley. The Titans would have a substantially improved pass rush. And if they believe that with Derrick Henry and that offense, if you look in the AFC right now, you need to be able to get to the quarterback because what? Because Patrick Mahomes is a stud, right? You got to do whatever it takes to get past Patrick Mahomes. And I think the only way you can get past Patrick Mahomes is if you can get a big rush from your front 4. So to me, if the Tennessee Titans could add Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney, and both of those guys could stay healthy, then you can drop your other 7 into zone coverage, which is where Patrick Mahomes has tended to make his mistakes in terms of interceptions. The dude's a stud, right? I believe he's the best quarterback in the NFL. But you have to figure out how to be able to beat him, and you can't beat him by blitzing because the Chiefs have too much talent with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. They can make you pay if you bring an extra man. And so I think you have to be able to get pressure with your front 4. It's honestly why the San Francisco 49ers had so much success in the Super Bowl. They were able to get a lot of pressure with the best defensive line in football. If you think about Clowney being paired with Vic Beasley and being paired with Jeffrey Simmons, who I think will be a big difference maker in year 2 coming off of that ACL injury, that would potentially be the kind of defensive line in the AFC that could give the Chiefs a problem. Now, can the Titans afford it? I don't know. Is Clowney worth 17 or 18 million a year? I'm skeptical. But that is at least worth considering as you go forward and think about what could happen. If you're a Titans fan, you'd like to think you could bring in Jadeveon Clowney and he could be an old school Javon Curse-like impact player in terms of being able to get to the quarterback. Finally, Wimbledon has been canceled for the first time since World War II. This stinks. I've been to Wimbledon. It was an incredible experience, one of the coolest bucket list items that I've ever had. Thanks to Andy Roddick, who hooked up my family a couple of years ago. We got to go spend the day at Wimbledon. It was phenomenal. Incredible scene. I would just say this. Things, I believe, if you look at Europe, are going to get a lot better in the month of April. If you use Spain and Italy and Germany as an example, things in England are going to get a lot better as you move forward. I'm not sure that crowds are going to be able to be present, but I believe by June, you are going to be able to watch major sports for sure involving teams. So I would be reticent if I was a league right now to make any decision until April is complete. I would make May 1st the deadline for when I'm going to assess what the nation is looking like in terms of trying to come back in June. And so I'm a little bit surprised that in England, they didn't wait one more month in terms of being able to make a decision about what to do. If I were making a decision about a league, whether it's Major League Baseball, whether it's the NBA, NHL, MLS, PGA, NASCAR, at worst, I would wait until April to assess what the status is in the United States before I decided by May 1st what I needed to do headed into summer, because I think things are going to get a lot better in April in Europe and also in the United States. And by May 1, the situation is going to be a lot different in terms of trying to figure out what to do. Doesn't mean I think in the summer it makes sense to have events with crowds necessarily, but I think that there is a strong likelihood that in June, some of these sports are going to be able to come back. And somebody just said in the comments as I look down, we've now got 5-minute coronavirus testing. And if you can get tested in 5 minutes, you can constantly be testing athletes and make sure that they don't have it. All right, I love all of you. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I am Clay Travis. DBAP, unless you need to. SBAP. Kisses to all of you. Thank you for making March the biggest month in the history of Outkick, even though we haven't had sports since March 11th. It's a testament to you guys and also your sharing of the content that we are producing. Love you. See you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be here on Periscope and Facebook, but also, as always, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio. Channel 83, by the way. If you have Sirius XM and you want to listen live from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, we're also in all 50 states, 300 plus affiliates. But I appreciate you. I will see you. This has been Outkick the Show. See y'all. Thank you, Facebook. Love you guys. Bye.